welcome to Bench Boost Boys with me, Gav, and this bloke. What's your name?
It's still Scott.
Fair enough. Okay, Game Week 9 forecast. Great big steaming hit.
Tell me why it's a great big steaming hit.
It will all become clear later, but it might have something to do with the fact that one or more of us has taken at least an 8-point hit so far in this game week.
At least an 8-point hit.
At least the week is young, but it will all become clear. But before we get into that, a couple of points. One, this week is just the forecast because of the international break. Last week we did a review of Game Week 8.
Yep, go back and check it out if you're interested in what we wanted to talk about with respect to the other games. But
if you just really care about what to do this week, here's a little rundown of what we're going to talk about. We are going to have, after the break, a quick talk about player news, injury speculation, and then players to watch and transfer. Another quick break, and then straight into Game Week 9's fixtures. Another quick break, and then we'll finish up with a mailbag. We've got a couple of choice questions coming on that later on, and then we will talk at the end of the show about what we're going to do with our respective teams.
We'll cover off some admin first. So find us on all the socials, Bench Boost Boys.
Yeah, we're particularly active on that there Twitter.
Yep, not very active on Instagram. Haven't posted any photos. I've got some cute dogs I can put up there, but not really relevant.
No, not really. Email us, benchboostboys@gmail.com. And you know what you can also do? You can join our private league. And the code to do that is P2IFBX. So please join the Bench Boost Boys private league. But let's crack on.
Let's do it. Let's take a quick break and come back and talk about some of the players.
Bench Boost Boys back in full effect. Okay, Scott, you want to kick us off?
Well, this is a tough one because I made a couple of notes and this international break has just been wreaking havoc.
It's ruined us.
As far as players are concerned. So my notes from this morning are no longer relevant because there are just so many more player injuries and illnesses to talk about.
For context, we're recording this on a Tuesday evening in Australia, which is basically Tuesday morning in the UK. We've got a few more international games to go, but we talked in the past about how FPL managers are terrified of international breaks, but we got away with it last time. Fuck all happened. This week, it's like the end of days.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest news, obviously, affecting 44% of FPL managers is Mo Salah. The man himself. The man, the myth, the legend.
Apparently went to a wedding in Egypt, got himself a tasty side serving of COVID-19.
That's what happens when you cuddle a bride.
Oof, there we go. You heard it here first.
Yeah, so that's just one player. With respect to COVID, there are a number of different players that have been touted with being out with an illness. But some of the biggest players to talk about with respect to injuries all come from Liverpool.
Yeah.
Robbo and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Two very popular choices.
Sure, I mean, and even Gomez, who was deputising for Virgil van Dijk.
Van Dijk, obviously. Yeah. Took a massive knock from Pickford, ended up getting COVID.
Oh, fuck.
From that knock.
Oh my God, the power of COVID.
It's COVID everywhere.
Stop laughing, Scott. COVID's not funny.
COVID is not funny. The other big one that affects a lot of FPL managers, myself included, is Benjamin Chilwell back injury. Came off when he was playing for England. 75% chance to play this weekend. Schmeichel, Kasper Schmeichel, I know you used to have him.
I do, he's a great keeper. Hurt his head.
And banged his head. Or bung, past tense. Raheem Sterling for Manchester City was another one that I had because he's essentially one of those premium assets, not owned by too many FPL managers, but one of Manchester City's only really bright stars of this season because there haven't been that many.
No, sure. One thing as well to remember is that so far this season we've kind of learnt that a lot of guys listed as 75% chance of playing have actually ended up playing, so keep your eye out, maybe do some tactical positioning of your bench and whatnot, and yeah, if in doubt, keep an eye on the FPL website.
And those were just my notes. I'm looking at your notes now. Down the right hand column.
Yeah.
Havertz, still not 100% to play. Callum Wilson, not 100% to play. Trossard, Pulisic, Aguero, Greenwood, Rashford. Is anyone actually playing Premier League football anymore?
Aguero might be back, as much as a lot of these will. Pulisic definitely not coming anywhere near the football pitch. Greenwood, Rashford. Telesh, though, because Luke Shaw's out for Manchester United.
Yeah, could be making his debut, which would be exciting. And for all, from what I've heard, he was a phenomenal player. And put in the Portuguese league, he had
big hopes for that guy.
Yeah, so he could be a really good FPL asset if he bumps Luke Shaw out of that team. Luke Shaw obviously scored an assist last game week, and he also scored an assist in the Champions League. He's now out. James Ward-Prowse, a lot of people put him on their radar because of his cracking week a couple of weeks ago. Scored 2 free kicks in one game in the first half.
Ward-Prowse's dead balls. Our boy Brewster, this was meant to be his week, wasn't it? And we'll talk about that in a bit when we break down the Sheffield United game.
We will go back to Brewster watch.
Might not be playing, but we'll get to that. So,
players to watch, though. I mean, the big 3 for me that stand out: Hakim Ziyech, phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bruno Fernandes had the game of his life.
Would it be fair to say that he's kind of carrying Manchester United a bit at the moment?
Yeah, not an unfair statement. Certainly carrying them a little bit more than Solskjaer. Jack Grealish as well. I mean, a lot of people are sitting there going, "God, Jack Grealish is quality." Get him on your team.
Absolutely.
If you're watching any FPL games, if you're watching any England games, get him on your team.
Well, the thing is as well, if he carries on playing as well as he is, his price is only going to creep up. So jump on where you can get someone who's effectively playing like a premium asset.
He's playing like a 12 million midfielder.
Of a mid-tier player.
And he's under 8 mils. He's about 7.5, I think.
A steal. Other one for me, Timo Werner. A lot of the focus has been on Ziyech for good reason. Werner's just getting better and better. I feel like he's really warming up and he's doing the right things and saying the right things. And to be brutally honest, he's on my watch list to such an extent that I feel like if Harry Kane was suddenly injured next week or something, I'd probably bring Werner in.
That's not a horrible shout at all. He's playing well for Chelsea. He's playing well for Germany. And he's not particularly. He's even cheaper than Harry Kane. So you bring Timo Werner in, you're saving a bit of money. You can move back into your midfield or into your defence.
Absolutely. Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we are going to do a full rundown of Game Week 9's fixtures. Are you ready, Scott?
I'm ready. Let's do it. We'll have a break first. And then
we'll have the break, then we'll talk about it.
We'll have a quick break.
You're ready to do it.
After the break.
And I'm ready if you're ready.
I do need a break.
See you in a minute. Welcome back to Bench Boost Boys and me, Gav, and this bloke Scott, who's apparently ready.
Good evening, Gav.
Hi. Do you want to kick off then with Game Week 9's fixtures?
At St James's Park, Newcastle are hosting Chelsea.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, so this should be a pretty comfortable fixture for Chelsea. Callum Wilson, we know, is not guaranteed to start.
That's a big problem for them, and I feel like if Callum Wilson's either not playing or not firing on all cylinders, it puts kind of a lot of pressure on Sam Maximin, really.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, we talked about their riches in midfield a lot this season. So irrespective of the fact that Havertz isn't guaranteed to start, irrespective of the fact that Chilwell's not even guaranteed to start, they have such a great team. They have such depth. Even with Pulisic out, Ziyech, the one to watch, Timo Werner still scoring freely. Obviously, Germany still have a game to play. So, keep an eye on Timo Werner. Just crack that beer out, Kevin. Don't even worry about the noise.
I just need it to numb the pain of working with you.
So Newcastle, Chelsea, again, I think it's going to be a bit of a walkover for Chelsea. I'm really hoping there's going to be a clean sheet. I've got Mendy as my goalkeeper. I do have Chilwell. He may play.
Yeah.
So
I have Chilwell, Zuma. So, I'm hoping holding out a lot for those guys. Newcastle, Wilson, he's 75% chance of playing. As I said, Sam Maximan's going to be carrying a lot out there. Yeah, I'm expecting a bit of a Chelsea romp on that one.
I'd love to be proven wrong. Obviously, my team's from London. Obviously, Chelsea's West London. I wouldn't be upset if Chelsea lost, but at the same time, from an FPL perspective, it wouldn't be good for my team. But let's move on to Aston Villa, Brighton Hove Albion. There's going to be a lot of FPL managers watching this match for one player alone, and that's Jack Grealish. Can he back up last week's performance?
Probably. He's a very confident guy and a very talented guy. Watkins as well, who's in. I think we've both got Watkins. I also have.
Now.
I have McGinn as well from Villa, who he's doing all right, but definitely Grealish is going to be the standout.
Yeah, Trossard we talked about a little bit earlier. He's 75% chance of playing. He's one of Brighton Hove Albion's biggest attacking assets. We've touched on the fact that Mailbag was out of the team a couple of weeks ago, back in the team. All a little bit hush hush. If you want to find out what that story was, check out last week's episode. The one to watch for me, the competition on this pitch, for me is Tariq Lamptey, who we love. We love on this podcast. He's an extremely attacking right back. I don't have him in my team yet. I've been looking at him all season. I just haven't found the opportunity to bring him in. Don't really want to take a 4-point hit for him. But he's going up against Jack Grealish, who is an extremely attacking left winger for all intents and purposes.
So who's going to win that duel?
Well, it's hard to say that Lamptey will win it because Lamptey, as a defender, is more of an attacking asset for Brighton.
Sure, okay.
So he's... I think Grealish is going to find it easy to get him behind, Lamptey, especially in the counter-attack. And I think that that's going to... I think Grealish is going to be feeding Watkins goals this weekend.
Absolutely,
truthfully.
yeah. Well, and it'd also be interesting to see how the likes of Ross Barkley fits into that. But yeah, I see a good result for Villa.
Yeah, and Villa are just playing such good football at the moment. What about the game of the weekend, as far as I'm concerned?
Tottenham versus Manchester City.
Yeah, I mean, they're two really big clubs playing decent football at the moment.
For me, the interesting point is to put the theory to the test that Son and Kane perform better against attacking teams because their counter-attack works when people are actually attacking them and not parking the bus.
And what a team to test it against, because Manchester City, they haven't got all of their players fit and ready to go. We know Sterling's only a 75% chance. Aguero might come back.
Aguero might, and then Jesus as well.
Jesus is back, and he is actually firing. He actually scored a really great goal last week. But the one player for Manchester City that's not playing super well at the moment, for his price... KDB. The very epitome of the scrutiny of premium assets. We expect so much from these super expensive players. If you're forking out 11.5 million, you'd want that 11.5 million to be delivering.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that he is. I mean, obviously what happens in the international friendlies doesn't affect FPL, but you have to see the way that Belgium beat England 2-0, and Kevin De Bruyne, he might as well not have even played that game.
I don't know what's going on there, and I don't know if something will come out or if I'm just being melodramatic, but either way you look at it, it's pretty disappointing.
It's probably coronavirus.
Maybe. Okay, Manchester United versus West Bromwich Albion. Now, West Brom, we give them a lot of shit, don't we?
Well, and rightly so.
Yeah, you're right. I don't even have too much to talk about with them. The interesting point is Telesh, if he's supposedly fit now, Luke Shaw is not, so we might see him make his full debut at left back.
I will talk about West Bromwich Albion because they have two very good standout players. And I say very good, I mean, as good as you can be when you're playing for West Brom. Callum Robinson is their biggest attacking threat.
Sure.
And Matthias Pereira. But both of those players only a 75% chance to play each.
It's not ideal, is it? I mean, speaking of 75%, that's also the case with Greenwood and Rashford at Manchester United.
Yeah, but I mean, the difference between West Brom and Man United is the depth of squad.
Yeah, true.
So, obviously, for Man United, you're looking at players like Bruno Fernandes, Anthony Martial, Edison Cavani,
Yeah, sure.
He gets out of that nursing home, he comes in and he starts playing.
He scored
last
week.
year.
Yeah.
To be fair, he did. We're still waiting on his response.
Leave Edison alone.
I love Edison. He's a good friend of mine. No, I think it's going to be a bit of a walk in the park for United. Bruno Fernandes, it's pretty famously known that he doesn't perform as well at home. But I think if he was going to perform well at home, it's going to be against a team like West Brom.
What a bizarre piece of trivia. That doesn't perform well at home. What?
I mean, I think if you're looking at FPL points over the course of his involvement in FPL, he's got about 160 points over the course of his career, and 110 or 111 have come from away games. So
maybe just appreciates that pressure. Maybe thrives under the hostility.
Yeah, possible. But
now, of course, he's in empty stadiums.
Yeah,
but,
so it's just the catering lady at West Brom.
It's the kit man on the end of the bench shouting crap at him.
Fulham host Everton.
Don't have too much to say about Fulham.
Well, it should be a comfortable game for Everton, really. It's away from home. Rodriguez set to start. I think he's fit now. He's ready to go. He's firing. DCL coming back from the international break. He scored a pen for England in their 3-0 thrashing of Ireland.
Richarlison, back from his ban.
You get excited about him. I don't get excited about Richarlison. I'm really sorry.
I do, but part of that is fueled by stats and whatnot. And I saw a bit of trivia during the week that said that I can't even remember how long the period was in time or games, but in X amount of period of games, and it was a fair amount. It was like 30 or something. That Everton have performed so much better with Richarlison playing. So yeah, I mean, he's again straight back on the watch list. He's obviously not in my team at the moment, but if you've got DCL, Richarlison, and James Rodriguez firing on all cylinders, it's a bit like the start of the season again.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a great fixture for anyone that has Everton assets, because we know Fulham just sitting one spot above the relegation zone.
They're not doing great. You think we'll ever see Lookman take a penalty again?
Oh God, no.
Life ban.
We talked about this a bit earlier when we shot the podcast the first time. Lookman, that penalty, I went back and watched it. It was awful. Objectively awful. It was reminiscent of reminiscent, it happened before this, but Sergio Ramos, he's got nothing to do with FPL. He plays for Real Madrid. He was playing for Spain when
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I think he was breaking the record for the most caps
European player ever, something.
Some ridiculous statistic. And he managed to miss 2 penalties in one game, but his second penalty was very Lookman-esque.
The funny thing with that is, supposedly the 28 penalties he'd taken previously, like consecutively for club and country, he had scored. And then he missed 2 in that game. Maybe he just wasn't taking it seriously enough. Anyway, who knows if we'll see Lookman ever take something again. And of course I appreciate as well that some people might still have Mitrovic as their cheap third striker.
Brewster Watch.
Oh, we're moving into Brewster Watch. So Sheffield United versus West Ham United. Brewster Watch might be taking a massive kick in the dick right off the bat, because
right on the tip, Brewster's took a knock.
He came off in the England under 21s, got replaced by Eddie Nketiah. And we've been talking about Brewster Watch for a few weeks, and how this was meant to be the game week.
Well, we talk about Brewster Watch for a specific reason. Yeah. That's the price point. 4.5 million for a starting striker.
But we'd been anticipating the fact that this was the game week where Sheffield United had kind of got past the tricky fixtures, and maybe now Brewster was going to kick in, and he might even bloody play.
Yeah, because obviously when he started playing for Sheffield, there were a few tough fixtures, and objectively, even though West Ham are actually playing some pretty decent football, this is probably the easiest fixture so far. Well,
how can it not be? These guys are basic basement boys, aren't they? West Ham are without Antonio, which is a shame. He's definitely one of their best players.
Oh, I still think back to that overhead kick he scored earlier in the season.
He's a great player.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player, and a really good FPL asset at that price point. Spoiler alert, I did bring in Masuaku for West Ham. I think at 4.5 million, he's actually a pretty good choice. He's a very attacking defender. West Ham had an extremely tough run of fixtures up until this game week, and still managed to walk out of it with 8 points. And I'm talking really tough fixtures.
Yeah, I think they've definitely punched above their weight so far this season.
Yeah,
I have Creswell in my team. Fornals is doing well. Souček had a good game week last game week, which was a goal and a clean sheet.
Yeah, for those that kept the faith in Souček, well done. It was only a clean sheet, let's not forget, because of the whole Lookman debacle.
Thanks, Lookman. It's got to be a West Ham win, and that takes us on to the Bench Boost Boys actual game of the week, and that's because it's a Bench Boost Boys derby, and that's Leeds, my team, against Arsenal, your team.
Both teams looking for a bit of a confidence booster after their performances last week. Obviously, Leeds lost 4-1. Who did they play against?
Some amateurs.
Probably Chelsea. And Arsenal, of course, lost 3-0 to Aston Villa. So both sides kind of looking for a win. I would say probably Arsenal needs this win a little bit more, because they're supposed to be a top 6 side. And they're not, at the moment, they're not a top 6 side. They're not playing like a top 6 side. Leeds have just come up from the Championship. I think Arsenal needs it more. If you could just have a chat.
Do you want me to have a word?
Yeah, to be else.
Well, I mean, it was a weird one actually. Leeds losing 4-1 to Crystal Palace in game week 8 because they didn't play.
Was it Crystal Palace?
Yeah,
Ugh.
they didn't play that.
It's just that you lost 4-1. I just naturally assumed it was Chelsea.
There you go. No, it was Crystal Palace, and take nothing away from Palace. They did great. Zaha was awesome. As much as he. Did only get 5
not deliver on the
points,
FPL
but from a
points,
football perspective, he was great. Leeds are looking to bounce back. This is a funny game. I always imagine any Leeds game, you're never going to get, say, a 0-0 in a Leeds game this season. That will come back and bite me in the arse at some point.
That's quite a hefty wager for you to bet me $50 right now that they're not going to lose or draw 0 all season.
50 Turkish lira, maybe. But yeah, Leeds. Maybe this is a one for Bamford. Bamford's kind of one of those strikers who is a bit of a 1 in every 3 games, and he'll just grab you a bloody hat trick or something. So it could be one for Bamford.
This is definitely going to be a disappointing game for one or both of us.
Yeah, Rodrigo, I think, is still out with his kind of COVID isolation.
Surely he's recovered by now.
I don't know. Maybe he'll surprise us. He's actually a decent one for the watch list. There's a lot of people who are kind of banking on Rodrigo once he's kind of got up to speed with the Premier League. He might be a really good FPL asset eventually.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at Hector Bellerin for this game. I obviously have him as my right back. He's an extremely attacking player for Arsenal, capable of keeping a clean sheet against Leeds. Leeds play very attacking football though. They love to have shots, and Bamford again loves to score. He's actually a good goal scorer. So
Leeds got one gear, and they're never going to change. And actually, do you know what? Not to digress too much, but I think that's actually quite a good attitude to have as a newly promoted team, because if you're doing what Sheffield United are doing now, as much as they're not newly promoted and they did have a good start when they first came on board, if you're just kind of playing quite negative football and just pumping the ball up, it's not always a good
idea. Do you deserve to be in the Premier League?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Second game of the week. It's not the second game. It's the second other. It's the other game of the weekend.
Game of the week.
Liverpool hosting Leicester City. Now, I say the other game of the weekend. This is Liverpool B team, a decimated Liverpool facing Leicester City, and let's not forget Leicester City's most valuable FPL asset, one of their best players, if not the best player, Jamie Vardy, retired from international football in 2018, so he's well rested for this game, and he's going up against a decimated Liverpool defence.
This is going to be their youth team at the back, minus the keeper. Yeah,
well, they're going to have to go in the January transfer window for a defender.
Yeah, absolutely. But as far as this game goes, I feel like it's going to be either we're going to get something really exciting out of Jota, Mane and Firmino, so kind of like a refreshed attacking trio for Liverpool, or we're going to see Leicester just absolutely tear him to bits and just really jump on this opportunity.
We've seen Aston Villa tear Liverpool apart this season already, so that's not to say it's not going to happen, but for me, I think that this game is going to be very very good for goal scorers.
Sure, but
Jota, Vardy, I think they're both capable of scoring goals. I don't think it's going to be a particularly good game for either defences because Fofana...
Well, Schmeichel is 75% chance of playing as well. That's a big deal for Leicester if he's not in goal.
The other one is Fofana, and we don't talk about Fofana because...
Castagne might be back.
Let me talk about Fofana. Fofana hasn't... He's not an FPL asset, but we have to talk about the fact that he does provide that really influential spark for the centre-backs for Leicester. He's only 19 years old. He's been phenomenal for Leicester City.
Sure.
He's a huge influence. He's also a doubt. So with Castagne out, Fofana, Schmeichel, Liverpool obviously have Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robbo, Gomez, Van Dijk. It's two B-team defences going up against two A-team attacks.
Sure, but here the roll of the dice on this one is, let's assume for a moment that the guys at 75% play. That Schmeichel's in the team, Castagne's in the team, Robertson's in the team. Let's say, if according to the Egyptian FA, that Salah's going to be playing on Sunday, I don't know why they give a shit. Suddenly that's a different picture. So really, I don't know. If you've got Salah in your team, in spite of what I may or may not have done with my team, which we'll talk about towards the end of the show, my advice kind of now is probably just keep him in.
I don't do many score predictions. We just talk about what we think is going to happen fantasy styles.
Yeah.
I reckon this is going to be a 3-4. I reckon Liverpool's going to lose 3-4 to Leicester.
Wow. So
obviously, Brendan Rodgers is counting on the fact that Jamie Vardy's going to take 6 penalties.
Sure. I was going to say, if Leicester's scoring 4 goals, are you saying that might be 4 Vardy goals?
I reckon it's going to be 3 Vardy penalties, and who knows?
Sounds to me like someone suggesting if you've got Vardy in your team, triple captain him.
Do it.
Get it done.
I dare you.
All right, well, that's an exciting match. So the next one is Burnley versus Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace have just, well, I say come off the back of. They have in terms of the last game week, but it's been 2 weeks now. They beat Leeds 4-1.
Every single week I pick a match and I just say, yawn.
And you've chosen this one.
And I only say this because Burnley's hosting Crystal Palace. Now, Zaha, Ayew, Eze maybe, might show up. Townsend.
Andros Townsend, yeah.
They're going to hammer that Burnley defence. But Burnley's defence...
Pope in goal.
Nick
Pokemon.
Gotta catch him. So he's obviously...
Gotta catch the ball.
Yep.
Pokeball.
Yeah, the
Pokemon. Nick Pokemon.
So Burnley's going to be pretty stoic in defence. Crystal Palace are going to be quite attacking. I reckon this could end up as a 0-0, but as soon as Crystal Palace get 1 goal, Burnley might start pressing, and Crystal Palace could turn that into a 2-0 win. I don't think it's going to be more than that.
I like the idea that you called this a yawn match. Now we're about to watch Zaha score 5 goals.
If that happens, I'll buy you a hat.
Thank you.
I'm sick of looking at your shit hair. Wolves versus Southampton. I didn't know that. Your hair's fine.
Wolves versus Southampton. I think this is actually going to be a really good game. I kind of pick Southampton, but obviously when we talk about FPL and specifics to talk about, Ward-Prowse 75% chance playing, Bertrand 25%. Obviously Ings still out, probably back in December sometime. Likely we'll see Walcott continue to deputise, got an assist last time out. Maybe he'll build on that. Che Adams as well leading the line.
And Wolves too, not without their own injury woes. So Seiss could be rotated back in here. For those of us who have been watching, Seiss didn't play the last couple of fixtures for Wolves. Ait-Nouri obviously a couple of weeks ago had an absolute cracking debut with a goal and a clean sheet. He's only 75% chance to play, and Connor Cody, who's there obviously he's a centre back and he's their captain. He's only a 75% chance to play. Seiss can slot in as centre back. I think we'll see Kilman obviously starting this game. Kilman, from an FPL perspective, is an extremely cheap option. If you don't have him in your team, you probably should get him in, because Wolves are an extremely good defensive team, capable of absorbing quite a lot of a lot of pressure, and then they tend to kind of push back a little bit in the second half, and they'll win their games 1 or 2.
They famously don't score in the first half. Kilman's worked out pretty well for you, but I'd say, a bit of a theme running through this upcoming game week is injuries. Teams have just been absolutely decimated. And actually, at the start of the season, it started later than last season because of the whole COVID thing. A lot of congestion coming in with fixtures. We kind of knew this was going to happen. And
we'll actually touch on that in the mailbag a little bit later from one of our close friends. But before we do that, we will take a quick break. And I will say this just before we do. I really want that Wolves Southampton game to end 0. I'll tell you why in a minute.
All right, we'll be back. Welcome back to Bench Boost, boys. We're in the final section, the mailbag. So, Scott, we have a question from Theo, manager of Wenger Inn. He says, and he's asked 2 questions because he's a greedy fuck.
Greedy bastard.
He says, what do you believe is the most efficient formation? I currently have 3-5-2, but it's proving to be more difficult to manage with 5 midfielders.
This is one where a lot of FPL managers, when they start playing the game, they're not fully aware of this. Your substitutes do need to be in the right positions. If you have a substitute sitting at number 1, ignore your goalkeeper. Your goalkeeper's going to sub in for your goalkeeper. That's the only player they're going to sub in for. Your first substitute is going to sub in for the first player. The second substitute is going to substitute in for the next player that doesn't play. But it has to make sense mathematically. Now, what Theo's talking about here in that 3-5-2 implies there are no midfielders on his bench whatsoever. Right? Sure. So he's banking on the fact that his 5 midfielders are going to be his highest scoring players.
Yep.
Now, for all intents and purposes, they are. Generally, they can get clean sheets. They get clean sheet points. 1 clean sheet point. They get points for playing 60 minutes. They get points for scoring. They get 5 points for a goal as opposed to 4 from a striker. And a lot of players playing out of position, like your Mo Salahs, like your Aubameyangs.
They get assists as well.
Yeah.
Bonus points are usually right for those.
Exactly.
The amount of work they put in.
So, from what I'm reading, Theo's banking on the fact that he has 5 quality midfielders that are consistently starting for their team.
Sure, and that is important to differentiate that between playing 5 because you can and playing 5 because you should. So, to quantify that, if you've got your 5th midfielder and he doesn't really play, or he's on the bench or someone, don't chuck him in just because you want 5. But maybe in the transfer market, if you're looking to do that kind of formation, you would choose players who are going to maximise that. So yeah, don't pick players in a formation because you want the formation. Sometimes the formation picks itself because of the players and the fixtures you've got.
Yeah, and the other thing too about that 3-5-2, the only way you're ever going to have 5 guaranteed starting midfielders that are scoring high levels of points is if your 3rd striker and your 4th and 5th defenders are extremely cheap. Because there aren't that many midfielders around that 6.5 million price point that are consistently delivering points. We've seen the frustration for players like Podence from Wolves, the bloke from Man City whose name starts with an F,
Foden.
Sure, why not? He's causing a lot of frustration for players that own him. So unless you've got 5 consistently performing midfielders, and I would argue that when you had Jorginho and he was taking penalties for Chelsea, you might have had that.
Sure, at that price point for sure, but that's almost like an exception to the rule. So if you're pretty smart in the transfer market and you either get someone on a cheap and they turn out to be good, sometimes it's more luck than judgment.
And again, the international break is really testing the depths of squads for a lot of managers IRL, but FPL managers too. So I'll touch on this a little bit later. I'm stuck in a position where I don't even really get a say in my formation this week.
So you know what? Sometimes my formation picks itself, and if the fixtures and the players make sense, I've got no problem playing 4 at the back.
I will say this, Theo. I will say that I tend to try and play a 3-5-2. If not, I'll play a 3-4-3.
Yeah,
and that's because I back my 3rd striker. So I would suggest to you, if you've got the money, try and find a 3rd striker you back, because around that 6 million price point, there are a lot of really good options. Ollie Watkins, Callum Wilson, when he's fit, Patrick Bamford.
Even Patrick Bamford,
yeah. There are a lot of really good options at that price point.
Okay, now on to the second question from this greedy question fuck, is COVID is obviously getting worse in Europe. How is this going to further affect FPL? How many point hits will teams be taking?
It's important that we focus on the fact that he said, how will it affect FPL? And we're not talking about the economy. We're not talking about borders. We're not talking about anything other than Fantasy Premier League.
Yes.
COVID is really fucking everything, though. Let's be honest.
And obviously the subtitle for this episode is Great Big Steaming Hit, and that will make a bit more sense when we do talk about our own teams in a minute. But I think that's what Theo's getting towards, if
the how many point hits will teams be taking? That's the part of the question we should really focus on.
I agree,
because we've talked about the 3 options excluding triple captain that players have when they need to act reactively. Wildcard is,
generally speaking, it's thought that wildcard is good to play during an international game week break. We did that in the last one.
Yeah.
Now, fuck me.
The last international break, for all intents and purposes, was pretty.
It's a walk in the park, and now we're being punished with interest. But now it would be a really bloody good time. I've seen screenshots on Twitter of people who've got like 6-7 players out injured.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this international break. Still hasn't fucking finished yet. We've still got England to play Iceland. We've still got Portugal to play another game, another competitive fixture too, because that one actually does matter, I think, to them. So there are players, huge players out there from an FPL perspective, like your DCLs, like your Kanes, like your Fernandes, Bruno Fernandes, who could still be affected by this. And let's not forget they have to come back into the country.
Yeah, there's a few moving parts there. I would say now is a good time potentially to play your chips, whether that is free hit or wild card.
Well, with respect to the free hit, I'm not going to lie to our faithful listeners, which are at least.
I'm glad to hear you're not going to lie to them.
There are going to be game weeks where we have teams playing multiple games within the game week.
Catch-up games.
We know that Man City, Man United and Aston Villa, plus one other team whose name I can't remember, nor do I care about, didn't play in game week 1, which means they are set to play 2 matches in one game week. So if you can save your free hit, save it for that game week. Play your free hit, bring in 3 United players, bring in 3 City players, bring in 3 Villa players who you know are going to play at least 60 minutes of each of those 2 matches, and they're guaranteed to score you.
Guaranteed's a strong word, but
even if they only played 60 minutes of each of those 2 matches, they'd be scoring 2 points each, which is 4 points.
God, got it all worked out, haven't you?
I do. Mathematically, it's just statistics and data.
I can see your head swelling. Outside of playing chips, I would say as well, if you find yourself taking an 8-point hit or a 4-point hit, probably not 12, it's not the end of the world. You don't want to be doing that every single week. That is a recipe for disaster. But if your team is absolutely ravaged by injury, much better than that, depending on how long the injuries are. Like, for instance, if you've got Mohamed Salah, irrespective of what I will tell you in a minute that I've done with my team, my advice now would probably be just park him on the bench or in the team and let him automatically be transferred.
At 12.3, at a 12.3 million price point, you have to remember, if you sell Salah right now, you're only getting 12.2 for him.
Sure.
When you want to buy him back in, and you're going to want to buy Salah back in, you're going to have to be paying his price point for him. So 12.3 again. So you're going to be losing that $200,000 over that transaction. Notwithstanding the fact that when you sell the other player you've just bought in, you're also going to be losing there.
What have I done? Okay, well, I feel like we've answered Greedy Fuck Theo's questions pretty well, so it's probably a nice segue now to move into the final part of the show, what we're doing this week. And whilst I sit here in my wallowed misery thinking about what I've done, I'm going to allow you, Scott, to talk about your team and what you've done or are doing.
Firstly, the views that I've expressed here are the views of me and me alone. What I will say is, my advice to listeners is, always wait until the last minute before you make a transfer, because
like we do.
Well, anything can happen. We've seen it in the international break. We've seen it with players playing international friendlies. We've seen them playing international games. We've seen them getting stuck at the airports. Don't make fun of me for mentioning all the different scenarios where they are contracting these illnesses and getting these fucking injuries.
What I'm hearing is wear a mask and wash your hands.
Particularly the washing of the hands part, irrespective of what Dan Andrews thinks, that's the important part to focus on.
Okay.
Now, I didn't fucking listen to me, and I don't know why I don't, because I'm a smart person, but I made my transfers 2 days after the last game week, which, for all intents and purposes, was 12 fucking days away from the next game week.
Love a bit of danger, eh, Scott?
It's not that. I'm an idiot.
Oh.
So I looked at that size situation, not fully comprehending that Sice might be rotated back in, but completely forgetting that Connor Cody and Nori might pick up injuries over that international break. So I sold Sice. He's likely going to start this week, but I bought in Masuaku. Now, I saved a little bit of money there, and I used that money to bump Son out of my team and bring in Bruno Fernandes. A reactive transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Reactive to Tottenham's next 5 fixtures.
Sure.
Going against what I personally believe, which
and my theory.
Yeah, and our theory. We both think that Son plays great, but I'm just
whatever.
I'm so fixture versus form. But also, let's not forget, Son has blanked for the last 2 game weeks.
Sure.
But I did bring in Bruno Fernandes, and I say reactive because he had an absolute cracking week last week, and I really like Man United's fixtures coming up. So that was an upgrade. Hopefully it wasn't too early. I have injuries to 2 of my players, Chilwell and Salah. Chilwell with a back injury, obviously Salah with a lung injury. COVID. I've rotated those guys to the bench, and I've got 4 defenders for the first time this season. So just like our friend Theo, that greedy questioner.
Greedy fuck.
Just like Theo, I like to play the 3-4-3. Mm-hmm. This week, like we mentioned earlier, my formation has been picked for me. I don't have 5 fit midfielders, so I'm playing 4 across the back. Bellerin, Kilman, Masuaku, Kyle Walker-Peters. Mendy for Chelsea starting in goals for me. Again, that's why I'm hopeful that Wolves and Southampton is going to be 0-0. Well, if it's not 0-0, at least Walker Peters and Gilman to be involved in some goals. That would be lovely. Bruno Fernandes, I'm going to captain him against West Brom. I know he doesn't play that well against teams at home.
Apparently.
But West Brom's the team he's going to do it against. I've got Grealish as my vice captain. Now, I would be happy to slap the armband on Grealish.
Do it.
And James Rodriguez to finish my 3 in the midfield. I've got Kane, DCL and Watkins making up my front 3. And making up the rest of my bench, Jorginho and McCarthy. Obviously, Salah and Chilwell are the 2 injured players that probably won't feature. So Jorginho and McCarthy on the bench. Kane, DCL and Watkins. All things going well against Iceland. Kane and DCL come out of that injury free. Hopefully they don't even feature. And hopefully the private plane that they come back on to England... and they get to skip through customs. They don't get in contact with anyone that has COVID.
You underestimate English players, mate. They're all going to be doing bath salts in the team hotel, and they're going to rip each other's arms out the sockets and then be out, or something. Maybe a little less dramatic.
That seems oddly dramatic. What are you doing this weekend?
In life?
No, I mean with respect to your fantasy. I don't care what you're doing in life. Neither do our viewers, listeners,
or my wife. Okay, so. Robertson, Salah and Wilson got transferred out, and Chilwell, Fernandes and Watkins came in. So I will talk through that very briefly. Salah, he was actually the last to come out, and that's where I took my 8-point hit. I heard the news about COVID, panicked.
Shat your pants. I saw it. He shat his pants.
Yeah. Talking about clean sheets, I shit the bed. But Fernandes came in. Watkins for Wilson. This was, I think, Wilson's 75% chance of playing, but that's not why it happened. I did analyse kind of fixtures, form, all the rest of it, and the price points are different.
Yeah, it's half a million.
So that gave me a bit of wiggle room, and I just kind of got a bit of a good feeling about Watkins. So he came in, and Chilwell, in for Robertson. I guess that paid off if Robertson might not be playing.
Chilwell's also 75%. Don't forget that.
How convenient of me. But actually, I'm gonna try a little tactic. I'm gonna keep Chilwell in my team. I'm gonna go 3-4-3 this weekend. Start Chilwell, but tactically put Walker Peters in at first sub. So if Chilwell doesn't play, Walker Peters will just automatically be subbed in. I also made these changes very early against my own advice. I am absolutely way too impulsive. Pretty confident. I'm not too upset. I'll tell you what would upset me.
Well, Chilwell's a long-term prospect too. Let's not forget the fact that I know he's injured, but he's a really good player for Chelsea.
I think he'll be back pretty quick. If not, he might even play this weekend. What would upset me though, and I'm still scarred by my Son experience earlier in the season when I subbed him or transferred him out before he got 4 goals. Was it 4 goals? It was a lot. He did something very big, and I was very upset.
Yeah, that would have been that. Yep.
If Salah, as the Egyptian FA are saying, comes in, he's fit, and he has a great game week, that probably pissed me off.
Yeah, but I mean, 44% of FPL managers own Salah, and there's always 56% of FPL managers missing out on Salah's points.
Well, I'll be happy if Fernandes turns it on, which is a lovely segue to the fact that I think I might captain Fernandes.
Samesies.
I know, our teams are a little bit eerily close to each other. Which is probably a good point to actually talk about who my first 11 is. So I have got Leno for Arsenal in goal, Chilwell, Creswell and Zuma at the back, McGinn of Villa and Grealish, along with Fernandes and Son up front, Watkins, Kane, Calvert-Lewin. Bench looking like Meslier of Leeds, Walker Peters as I talked about, and then Dallas and Harrison of Leeds as well on the bench.
So not a lot of confidence in Leeds there.
It's just direct comparison to what else is going on. The only thing I might change, the only thing that's not set in stone, is I could bring in Jack Harrison for McGinn.
Well, we've looking at yours. You've got 3 Aston Villa players. You've got 2 in the midfield, one up front. So Aston Villa, you're essentially banking on Aston Villa to have a bit of a walkover against Brighton Hove Albion at home.
That's fair.
Which, could very well happen. I mean, I would say you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket there. And Jack Harrison, maybe not Stuart Dallas, but Jack Harrison might not be a bad shout to swap for McGinn.
That is likely to be, if there's going to be a change here, that would be it.
You heard it here first, guys. He's going to transfer in Harrison and triple captain him against...
Did not say that. Also not going to play my bench boost. Are you?
No. Not even slightly this weekend, because two of my players, collectively they're 100% chance to play. Salah on 25%, Chilwell on 75%, so at least one of them will play.
All right, well, good luck and all the best.
That's how maths works.
Whoop whoop. Okay, if you want to send questions in to the mailbag, benchboostboys@gmail.com, or probably more conveniently at benchboostboys on Twitter, and we'll endeavour to answer them. Probably enough from Theo, I'd say. Greedy fuck.
Don't forget to go back and have a listen to what our code was to join our mini league, unless Gavin wants to awkwardly try and get it up right now.
You don't remember what the code is for our mini league?
Yeah, it's got a P in there.
Yeah, okay. It's P2IFBX. Come and join the Bench Boost Boys mini league. P2IFBX. Join us. And otherwise, all the best for Game Week 9, Scott.
Yes, FPL managers, good luck for Game Week 9. We will speak to you next week when we find out if Son runs amok against some of the highest performing teams in England.
Oh, I can't wait for that theory to be put to the...
If Salah ends up playing as the Egyptian FA predict.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
Bye!
Bye!